Hey everyone, it's been a while, and today we're going to continue this series about Next.js and Strapi. I've done some preparation before, so I really hope that this video is going to be concise and not too long. In the previous video, we really focused on Strapi, installing Strapi, seeing how we can deploy with GitHub Actions, and now what we are going to do is focus on Next.js. There's still going to be a first part about Strapi and how to set up the data, because we're going to build what you're seeing on the screen right now. It's basically, a Deliveroo clone, if you can see it. It's exactly the same. But let's imagine that we want to create something like this with Strapi and we want to modify the content. Let's just say that we want this part, the name of the restaurant, to be modifiable, and the path maybe too, the description, and we want to be able to create sections with the different products and with an image here. So how can we do this? That's what we're going to do today. So let's start by going to our development environment for Strapi. We're going to start with Strapi.js and get basically the content set up so that we can fetch the data on Next. Okay, so now I'm back in the development environment for Strapi, and I just need to create the collection that will mimic the data that I need for the restaurant. So I already got this part kind of done with TypeScript for the front end, for the Next.js part, and if you can see it, I basically got some interfaces that represent the data that you saw on the screen. So some of them are kind of not needed if you exactly want to really represent, let's just say, a typical user. For example, time here is supposed to be the time to deliver. Obviously, that depends on the user. Same for the distance depends on the user. So there are a lot of data here that doesn't make any sense if you're really trying to build something like Deliveroo. But it's not exactly what we're doing. We're not creating this application entirely. It's just to demo what you can do. So let's try to mimic this data with Strapi and see after how we can fetch it. So what we got here, we got some menus, we got a restaurant, and this one is not needed. And yeah, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so for the menu, let's create a component that is called menu. For the menu, we need title, and which is going to be title. And that's going to be it for now. So let's save it. Okay, we're going to create another component that I'm going to call food item. Food item. Let's add this icon. And for food item, we need name, image, description, and price. So name, image, and description, for simplicity, is just going to be string. And for the price, I'm just going to basically add a number. So name, long text for the description. We're going to be image will be a URL, so it's going to be a short text. And like we said, the price. That was number format, just decimal should be okay. So that should be it. We got what we need. Let's save it. So the menu will basically contain the title, and it will contain food items. and let's call that just items. And that should be it. So, as you can see, we already have a menu. So the menu, if you don't see what that is, it's just this. So we got introduction to UB, that will be the title of the menu, and then each food items that you see here with the name, the description, the price, and the image. So what we need now is to create a restaurant that contains those menus, and the restaurant is going to have a name. Let's add absolutely everything else, even though it doesn't exactly correspond to what Deliveroo would do, because it's, for example, the time really depends on the user, so it's definitely different. But let's try that. So yeah, let's just create a restaurant as a collection type. And the restaurant will contain the description. So the description is text, and the restaurant will contain every other elements that we have here. So we're gonna have a minimum time and maximum time. So minimum. We got the name of the restaurant. We got the rating, even if that's not something that you would add yourself. We're just gonna add it here for demo purposes. The number of reviews, then again, you're not supposed to just say setup on your side the number of reviews that you get. That's something that is dynamic, really. Let's just add it anyway. So distance, same thing. Distance will be the distance in mile. Let's just put it in mile and not kilometers. I'm living in London, so you know. So the category will be an enumeration. Categories. Let's just add sushi at the moment. I don't have any other idea, but sushi image. And the image will just be a URL for the time being. So this is basically our collection type. Our collection type is a restaurant that contains a title, a list of menu items, and the menu items contain a title itself and the items themselves. So with all of that, you should be able to get the data necessary to get something out of the ground. So with all of that, with what we just created, is a representation of what we have here in TypeScript, pretty much, and we should be able to create what you see on the screen. So I'm probably gonna be, so let's try to do this. So let's try to add this data into Strapi. Let's try to do it right now, actually, on the development environment. So let's try to do it right now on the development environment. So how exactly would we be doing it? I got the collection type. I type restaurant. There is no restaurant. I guess we can add one. And you see absolutely everything here. So I'm just gonna add sushi. Let's try to represent exactly what's on the screen here. So actually I got the data. Actually I got the data just right here. So let's copy all of that. So let's just say the rating is 4.8. That's not too bad. Reviews, we said 41. The distance is 1 mile if I remember correctly. Description, I don't remember that much. Don't remember exactly. London first. Yeah, that's not the best. Okay, so minimum time, I think it was 20. Maximum time, I think it was 30. The name was UB. Distance maximum. Images, what's the image? The image is right here. And here we go. So now we can add the menus. So the menus that we had is Introduction to UB, which is the title. And now it's a collection of items. So for the items, we had only one item, which is the name. We only have one item and we're just repeating it 3 times. It's a bit of an horrible way of putting it, but remember, just a demo. So the description is right here. That's the image URL, and the price is 5.70. 5.70. Perfect. Let's just create another one that just says salmon maki, just for the fun of it, really. I'm just gonna copy the same image. Same image. Let's just say that the price is 5.10 this time. And that's the complete restaurant here that you have. Not too bad, we just created a restaurant on Strapi. It was not too difficult, but yeah. It was not too difficult, it was kind of convenient. We just got our data. So now let's get started with Next.js, finally. Okay, so here's what I just did outside of the video. I just basically created a GitHub repository and set that up. And it's kind of clean. So now we just need to go to the Next.js website and create a TypeScript ready application. So to create a Next.js website is kind of simple. You always have those npm init now. Npm init replace basically npx create something. So npm init next app is basically the same thing as npx create next app. Usually with those type of applications, the first parameter, the first argument is the directory you want to place it. So they often tell you to put the name of your project. We don't really need to do that most of the time. Yeah, I call that Next.js demo, so they can't create it because of npm that refuse capital letters. So I might have to actually do it this way. So I want the default starter app, and we're quickly going to see the website up and running. So obviously it's going to be the demo, nothing is going to be there, just an example. The next thing that we're going to do is set up TypeScript. It's basically just a preference of mine. You don't really have to use TypeScript, and for the demo and connecting to Strapi, it will not make that much of a difference. But let's do it anyway. So Next has a guide to set up TypeScript, and Next.js is really good with this. They provide really a out-of-the-box experience, and you can just configure your project kind of automatically to work with TypeScript just by adding a tsconfig.json file, which is extremely convenient. So you can just actually, let's do it this way. So what I'm doing right here is putting the project back to the root folder, kind of manually. There's probably a command for that, I know. I'm just really a user interface guy. But yeah, let's now add the tsconfig.json in the command just after I say I was a user interface guy, I know. So now we can just yarn and dev to start the server. So because we created tsconfig.json, Next.js will give us instruction about how to use TypeScript, which is extremely good. They just say to us that we need to install those packages. You can just copy paste this command and really follow your instruction. They also give you a default configuration just for you the first time you start your development server. So now let's go to localhost 3000. They're going to erase the restaurant that we see, and we're going to see the example now. Let's get rid of that. And that's it. Welcome to Next.js. So just for simplicity, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to copy paste the components that I have that recreate the restaurant. What we're going to focus on is getting the data from Strapi and using this data as props. Once you get this data as props, you can use them in the same way that you would a normal React application. Use these props and everything will be available for you to create components. Use them with components. You will see what I mean. So I'm gonna create a components directory, and I will cut for a second the video to copy all of that. So I copied paste the components that I had. So now we can focus on getting the data from Strapi to Next.js, and then we're going to be able to use the data as props for our page. And with Next.js, once we get the props, we can just use it as a normal Next.js application. So the first step, I would say, to get the data is to get the GraphQL query that we want to use. We're going to use GraphQL plugin that is available with Strapi, and it's a really powerful plugin that lets you use GraphQL query to query the data that you stored on your database with Strapi. So what I have is the query here on the screen to get the data that I want. So you can see that I want basically the restaurant, the ID, rating, description, minimum, maximum, all of that. I also want the menu to be added, and the menu is a dynamic zone, and we need to precise basically which type. We need to precise on the component restaurant menu, when it's a component restaurant menu, what exactly we want to get. So we want to get the items, name, description, image, price, and yeah, for the menu we also want the title. So as you can see, when I got this playground, which is which you get with Strapi when you install the GraphQL plugin, you get this playground, so you can take your query with it, and this is what I get. So you can directly see that the query is right. You're not making a mistake. You're getting exactly what you're expecting, and so we can just go back to Next.js. So for that Next.js, we will need to install a couple of dependencies. A couple of dependencies that you need to install is dependencies to be able to actually query a GraphQL server. So you can see that I added Apollo client and GraphQL itself. So you can just do that by yarn add Apollo client and GraphQL. I already did it, so it's not going to do really anything. Actually, it has updated Apollo client. Let's hope that didn't break anything that I did. So I created a service file, and the service file is only going to work in development right now. Let's focus on development, and we'll figure it out what to do for production. So I got at the moment hard-coded API-based URL that is localhost, so it's definitely only going to work for development, but we're going to change that later. Here is the Apollo client that you get from the Apollo client dependency, and we are exporting it. So what's going to happen, you see that the cache is also in memory. But what's going to happen, we're going to export it when we do need it, which is here on the index.tsx. So it's our home page. So it's under pages, index.tsx. So you can get props in a lot of different ways with Next.js. You got getStaticProps, which is what we're going to use. That is used if you expect basically to fetch the data once, and it's going to fetch the data at build time. So it's going to build the page that will be static. It will basically use this data as build time to create an HTML file that will be then served on S3 in a S3 bucket. So you do also have the option of doing get server-side props. We're not going to use this option. This option is mostly if, let's just say, you have an authenticated user and you want to fetch this data every single time. So you can't do it at build time. You will do it every single time when a request is sent to your server. So that's not what we need. At this moment, we just want to create a static page. So we're going to use getStaticProps. The way you're using it is extremely simple with Next.js. You just create a function named getStaticProps and you export it in the page. So Next.js tend to act this way a lot. It's something that people call like convention over configuration. You don't have to configure everything. It's kind of a convention. You're using this getStaticProps function, and Next.js is going to know how to what to expect and what to use. It's extremely good that way. So now we do use the Apollo client to query to make this query. GraphQL is here, and we are getting the data. So now it's extremely simple what we need to do. Just copy paste the query that we have, that is right here. So data is going to be what we see here. So what I want in the data, I just want the first restaurant. For this example, I'm just gonna go for that, just the first restaurant. Ideally, the home page will probably be a list of all your restaurants, like in Deliveroo. You have like your home page with a list of restaurants. But for this example, I just want to take the first restaurant. Okay, so right now we have an error, and it's normal. It's because I actually didn't get the restaurant out of the props. So let's get the restaurant. Obviously it kind of complains because, well, I didn't exactly type it yet. So let's get the type in. Okay, so I added the types. I basically copy-pasted the types from the beginning of the video when you saw the type that we used to create all data. And yeah, so the types are here. And I just basically added the props, which takes a restaurant. And now we basically have everything that we need, really. And you can see it on the screen. You see all of your data that you're expecting. So this part is completely dynamic. We have used this data here: restaurant, rating, name, description, image. All of that has been created thanks to Strapi on the backend. We get data from Strapi and we get it here. So the benefit of static using getStaticProps is that when you are actually building the site, you are building it and it creates a static website. You don't need to have a server on the backend. So you can actually see it when you are using yarn build, which creates your Next.js application, the final build. You have a difference between server, static, and server-side generated. Now, the last thing that we're going to do is publish everything. So let's start by publishing Strapi, because we have our data right now that is in our development server only. That's not exactly what we want. We don't want it to be on the development server only. So we already have set up in the previous video, we set up Strapi to automatically update in different environment with GitHub Action. We're just going to take advantage of that. The only thing that we need to do really is go Strapi demo and just, you can see all of the different routes that has been created automatically when we are using the user interface to add a data, add a collection type. You see all this data that is created, that is basically to configure the database, the data, the type of data that you can add. So let's say add restaurant. So yeah, let's just add restaurant collection type. And wait. So we can commit and push to development. And now let's do the same thing for Next.js. We're actually going to do something a bit different. We're going to push this, let's just say it's the initial commit. And we're going to push that directly to master. Create a pull request from development to staging. Create a pull request. Is that what we want? Yeah, looks like it. And we're just going to merge directly. On the Next.js side, we're going to use Vercel to host our Next.js application. Vercel is built by, is the name of the company actually that created Next.js, and so has also this infrastructure available for anyone to host Next.js application. It is free if you are using it for non-commercial products, so you can definitely take advantage of that. With Vercel, you need to have the GitHub app installed, and then Vercel needs to have access to your repository. So I'm just going to allow Vercel to have access to the Next.js demo. So it has access to the Next.js demo. I can save it, and now I should be able to import my project. That's what I have, and that's it. Let's just say Next.js demo, build and output settings, environment variable, if I need some, and I can just deploy. So you might remember I mentioned that it's probably not going to work because we hard-coded to look for the data in localhost. Vercel is building it, is running this yarn build command that we did locally. And when you do that, is fetching the data from the Apollo client server that we specified. So right now it's failing because it's trying to do it in localhost. So with the environment variable that I have, one thing that I can do is just specify that we want it to fetch on this data on the production version of our Strapi server and not the localhost. So localhost will be used only for development and the production one for the production data. Okay, so I merge from development to staging and to staging to production. So I'm now on my Strapi production environment, and what I need to do is add a restaurant again, because I did it for the development, but obviously the data is not automatically somehow transferred from my development environment to the production one. So I'm basically going to copy again the data that I have for Yobi, and then we're going to be able to use it with the environment variable that I specified to tell Next.js where exactly to look at when it's looking at the data. So I'm not going to do it on the screen, it's going to be boring. So I'm going to do it and I'll show you the result. Yeah, one thing that is important is don't forget to set the permission so that you can actually fetch the data. That's something that I tend to forget. So the camera died on me, but yeah, let me explain for the end. What's happening is that I just build again Next.js and Vercel, and you will see it's extremely fast to build. It takes about 30 seconds, which is quite great. I just kind of pushed an empty commit, basically just space, so that it trigger this build, and you will see the changes being reflected on the website. So here I visit the website that we created, and you can see there is, we can see the website, but it seems like there is a problem. The menu and the items are all the same. They have all of the same names. Reason is simple. I made a bit of a mistake with the components and hard-coded the value. So now we're just going to quickly change that. Put item.name, item.description, the price, and after we did that change, we should be able to see the real data. One thing that I did is removing the empty count. On Strapi, if you just try to add another element, sometimes it can be easy to add an element to an array and add like an empty element. So be careful about that, because that's the reason why you see at the beginning there was like 3 different items. So now we deployed it again, about 30 seconds again, just refresh, and you see the two that we were expecting. So that's been it. That will probably be the last, let's just say, episode of this series about Next.js and Strapi. It has been quite a great introduction, in my opinion. It should give you an idea of what you can do with both Strapi and Next.js. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see those kind of videos in the future, you can subscribe.